Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good,
Happy
good. Yeah.
Friday.
Happy Friday. Um,
Uh,
it's a beautiful day
it's
here in San
rain.
Francisco.
Oh yeah. Shitty day in Seattle. So,
Oh,
you know,
bummer,
perfect.
bummer. Yeah, I'm so excited. This weekend it's 70 degrees, sunny.
Nice.
You don't get that many of those here, so excited for it. But
Yeah. Oh wait, you don't? I guess yeah. Summer is a little gray in SF, right? So
yeah, this
yeah.
this last week it's been a little gray. I was just sharing this, but I decided to wash my rug. That I had this dirty rug that I went outside and I washed, but of course, when it was drying, it got all like the fog came in, and it was
Oh
just
no.
not a good thing. But um, yeah, so well,
Yeah, you got depends. SF is like 20 different weather systems depending on where you are. So
totally. Yeah, well, to everybody listening, welcome to Creative Flux, the semi-technical podcast diving into the world of generative AI. I'm Pearson Marks,
and I'm Bilal here.
and we just dive into the world of Gen AI media, really focused on what happened this week, what's the cool things that people in the AI space are excited about, specifically around audio gen, media like images, video, how like what are the workflows that are actually working? I know over the past month we've seen like Greg the Stormtrooper go viral. Yeti, Gorilla,
Sasquatch,
all of the above.
Bigfoot, all of
Sasquatch,
those. Yeah.
Bigfoot, and so the world's changing so much. I mean, do you follow Justine Moore from
Oh yeah,
A16Z?
I followed her for a while, but she's just been posting so many bangers. Like yeah, I feel that I'm liking basically every tweet she puts out because she'll have just the funniest Gen AI stuff. And actually, she's a twin. So her twin sister Olivia Moore is. They're both A16Z partners, and so she also posts in the same space.
Oh,
I
no
think
way.
they have a podcast together too. I think I watched clips of it. So yeah.
Are you sure they're actually twins, or is it like a AI avatar and they're just saying they're
Who knows?
twins?
Maybe. Yeah, I think they're twins, but yeah, I don't know. But both
That's
very
funny.
smart people, very cool, well, cool content. Definitely check them out on Twitter.
She posted a lot of stuff. I mean, like I saw the other day. I just follow those threads, and it's so cool. She's just showing kind of, I mean, like what we're aiming to do in some sense, but it's very more, she's doing practical stuff. It's like, hey, I did this, and then here's how I did it. Like I used, whatever the new Flux context,
Right. No, what I
Laura.
find so inspiring is because like she's like not technical, or at least she doesn't use like APIs or whatever, and so she'll be like, I went to this tool, I did this, and I think, oh. In Jalpa, we can like combine that, like we can stitch this together, so there's so many opportunities like that. She did this podcast one, which was similar to I know what we want to do, is where she first made the audio, and then she animated the using VO3 the different clips, or not VO3 but another video tool, and then stitched them together. I'm like, yeah, that should just be one thing.
Right, totally, totally. Yeah, and I want to dive in a little bit later about like I saw yesterday you made this like 2 minute long trailer Viking sort of thing, and I would love just to in a second to hear about like how you were thinking about like why you chose that concept. Like, was there anything behind the Vikings? What was that workflow? What was that process like for you? That where you went from the first tool to the next, and like how you thought about that and how you built it. But I mean. I think we just talked about this. A lot of stuff happens super quickly, and based on some feedback, I thought it'd be cool just to run down a little bit about maybe what we could talk about on this episode, what's happened this week. It was a slower week for sure, I think, in the Gen AI media space. Like last week, we talked about 11 Labs v3 and the
Right.
expressive voice models. The API is still not out.
Yeah,
I
no,
went
come
to
on,
a,
11 Labs, if you're hearing this.
oh
But also,
man,
just to say, like when we say slower week, we like only like 10 things came out instead of 20, right? So that's the saying.
right,
That's the slow.
right. It's slow for us. But yeah, I went to an AI Tinkers event on Wednesday,
Oh yeah, how
and
was it?
it was good. It was sponsored by 11 Labs. It was Voice Agent Science Fair It was the first one that I went to here in San Francisco, so I was really debating on do I go to the first one and demo? We're not really a voice agent product, so it kind of felt out of place. But after watching the demos, I was like, I could have demoed,
Hmm.
but it was cool because it was all around voice. I got to meet a lot of people in voice that were building things like what Alexa should be about controlling, all your lights and your fans and dishwashers in your home with voice agents. And then there were some people talking about like evals for voice agents and how do you
Hmm.
ensure that your agent is, handling angry, if you're a call center agent, how, how do you measure the performance of that agent? Is it handling angry customers correctly? Is it like understanding the tone and all that stuff? So that was pretty cool. I met the founder of Daily
There's
there.
a Kiwa. I forgot his name.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I met him at the AI engineers thing. Yeah, cool dude.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it was cool. So
They actually, yeah, they made this thing called Daily Bots initially, and I was using them. It was actually one of the first open source products under the hood. They took, they did speech to text, did speech to text using like a really fast, Grok Whisper, and then they
mm,
used, was it 11? They used Cartesia, which is a faster 11 Labs. They're focusing on flash models. Yeah, the guy I think
right,
who created Cartesia was invented flash attention or whatever.
right.
So and so they used Cartesia, and then they used oh yeah, I guess that would be the direct text to speech. And so they made something less than a second response, so it was super fast. And this is like now it's gone way more nuanced, but that was one of the first products I saw. I was like, wow, this is like open source models. You can bring your own keys, you can put it together, and it can be super fast. Make your own voice agent, and then they pivot. They kind of, I think it's the same product, but then they renamed it to Pipecat Cloud, and they basically offered a managed hosting, but I think there's an open source component to it. It's a very interesting product. If you ever did voice agents, I would definitely be looking into that for sure.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, it's yeah, like even when we're talking about this, like there's a few things that also came up like this week. There's Vercel Ship, which we won't get into any of that stuff because it's not Gen AI media, but a lot of cool products. If you're in the
Right,
tech space and you use Vercel, which they've dominated the mind share of AI engineers, like we use Vercel. I like
right.
Next. Bilal has used Next forever before it was even called Next. Um,
Zeit. Yeah. Oh, no, well, it
right.
was called Next, but the company Vercel was called Zeit, which
Ah,
which I actually I like that word. I think it was a German word, but
right.
yeah. No, Next is awesome,
So
and yeah, Vercel shipped a lot of stuff. Like you said, it wasn't about AI, but it holds up. I feel like the whole AI industry. I mean, fluid compute, queues. What was Yeah, I mean, I remember we were just posting every Vercel announcement. We were just posting on our Slack. We're like, oh, we can use this for this. It's just really interesting stuff.
totally. It made me wonder that honestly, as I was telling you how like I did some like login auth work just because I really don't like our auth pages. I think they're like the worst designed parts of the app, and there's some bugs there as well, which is bad. I realized, but they had this like Vercel announced this whole like bug bot detection where like everybody hates the captchas where you have to like type the
Yes, yes,
letters and
yeah.
it's just they're so annoying and that's what kind of got me down the rabbit hole. Like let me look at the auth stuff and but
Oh, yeah. Do we use I guess we can, the reCAPTCHA thing on the clients. I guess we have Turnstile, right? Cloudflare, probably. Or,
there's like basic bot detection,
right.
but nothing on the auth form and yeah, I mean there's that's maybe I add that, I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
But coming back to like Gen AI stuff though, like so this week, I think some of the things that I wanted to talk about today, one of them, big court case ruling.
Hmm.
We'll talk about that. Anthropic, a federal judge ruled in favor of Anthropic on essentially their argument that training AI models constitutes fair use. So that was a U.S. ruling by a federal judge that agreed with Anthropic's fair use claim. They did, and then we'll dive into like the piracy aspect of that later. Runway Gen 4 announced their API. Kling AI also announced motion control in their studio, and then there was like Flux Context Dev, which makes it super cheap to fine tune image models. So all these things that I would love to talk
Mhm.
about. And then there's like a higher level about context engineering that it might make sense to talk about or it might not, but
Context engineering. That's the new buzzword,
it's a new
context engineer.
buzzword,
I think I made fun of
right?
that. Like, or somebody. I feel like it's gonna take off. It's gonna become a thing.
Totally. Maybe we buy contextengineering.com and then we just be like, Jellypod is the best at context engineering.
Wouldn't it be funny if instead of back end, front end, you're like, okay, this guy makes the system prompts. He's a system prompt engineer, and this guy makes the user prompts. And like, oh, I focus on the baseline, and you build.
He's
So it's like,
if you have the English degree, I mean that those degrees probably worth some money right now. Come, you're a writer, you're a system prompt engineer,
yeah,
context engineer.
yeah.
But
That'll be the ultimate thing when all the engineers lose their jobs, but the philosophy majors are the ones, running the show.
totally, totally. Well, yeah. Let's just kick this off. Let's jump first into the copyright stuff, Anthropic, and then
Hmm.
next let's jump into the workflow that you went through when you were creating that Viking short. I'd say
Right.
the
Yeah. And
video.
we'll by the way we'll leave all the links that we talked about in the notes once.
Totally, totally. Sweet. Yeah. So I know I just mentioned this, but there was a well-known federal judge who this week ruled that Anthropic, the makers of Claude, um, their training constitutes fair use in the way that they took books, um, physically took books, ripped out the pages, de-spined those books, scanned those books, and used authors' works to train Claude. And that was the premise of that's what Anthropic did. Authors came out said, "Hey, you took our work and illegally violated our copyrights by not compensating us for you taking our stuff and then redistributing it to everybody. It screws authors and it makes the incentives for authors to why would an author want to write a book if it's just going to get sucked into the machine and be redistributed." And the judge essentially said, just like how humans can check out a book at a library or can go to Barnes and Noble and purchase a book to become a better writer, to be inspired by tone and prose, and learn how to write by reading. AI does the same thing, and it creates transformative new works. And training on those materials constitutes fair use. And so I think this is a pretty groundbreaking thing in the creative space because the copyright holders, both in images, in video, and in writing, this impacts a lot. I expect this to go to Supreme Court because there'll definitely be appeals. But as a preliminary ruling, it's yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you're a techno accelerationist, it's probably good news that we're we can do this. Like models aren't bogged down by lawsuits, and they can train on the best data. It's something I feel like the all the labs have figured out. I think for years now that it's garbage in, garbage out. The quality of the data is one of the biggest things that determine how good the model output is going to be. That's why I think at Claude, anyone who's used Claude, the writing is really good in Claude, and I think this is one they've really made spend a lot of effort making sure that the inputs that go into this model training are really good, high quality.
Totally.
So
It's pretty crazy. I mean, like the way that they went about this is like they hired the former I don't know, the former lead at Google, where he essentially I forget his name, but he was the one in charge of the Google like Scholar program, where like they were digitally like archiving all these books, and so Claude or Anthropic hired him, and his job was to legally obtain every single book in the world essentially and train
mm,
Claude on it.
right.
Um, Pretty cool. I mean, like think about it. You have to like, how do you figure out to get every single book in the world? Like that's like your objective.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also interesting to me that they felt the need to do this versus just using Common Crawl or because I need to get more into the weeds of the case, but I basically thought we had the whole internet's text data at this point. So I thought the next frontier was images and videos and stuff like YouTube, which you can we can come to in a second. But seems like it's not. Like seems there's treasure trove still in these books that needs the models need to be trained on. So.
Right. And I wonder, like, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer at all, but I wonder if there's some sort of, when you, like, when you go to a website, there's terms of service associated on that website. If you like go and view a page or you download a PDF, it's like by downloading this, you accept the terms and conditions. But when you go to a library or when you go to Barnes and Noble and you buy a book, you're not accepting terms and conditions. There's copyright law, but I wonder if that's kind of also has to play with this, like why they got physical books. It'd be interesting. If anyone, I wonder if anyone is a lawyer that's listening to this and they want to comment. It'd be cool.
It's a murky area. And touching on the same vein, you talked about images, but I wonder if this is going to set precedents for YouTube as well, because YouTube, the biggest thing has been it's public videos, and if you can train on YouTube videos, is that legal? And YouTube says that it's against their terms of service. We know for a fact OpenAI does, and probably like all the labs, they use YouTube videos in their data set, but they can't admit that because that opens up a can of worms. So I'm sure that'll be a case too. And Google, in some ways, they want that to happen because that way the only entity that can legally train their model will be Gemini. So that would be a huge advantage if they. But I don't think. I think they'll settle or something else. But it's an interesting case as well to think about.
Totally.
Because like same as like reading something. If I watch a million YouTube videos, it's in my head and I get inspired. So. Right.
100%. Yeah. YouTube. Data trove. Facebook, like I strongly believe that, so Facebook is not, I don't know, Google has an incredible ad business. Facebook, Meta also have an incredible ad business. I've always felt that like Facebook is a little bit more on the, hey, we're going to do whatever we want to do with your data. Google's a little bit more of like, hey, we're going to fingerprint you, we're going to serve you good ads, but like, maybe they were a little bit like, don't be evil, even though that's not necessarily their slogan anymore. Mark Zuckerberg maybe leans a little bit more on the gray area, at least what I felt. Right. But I totally see, like, we were just talking about this a second ago about ads and creators and hiring UGC creators. It's this huge new industry where, I mean, over the last 5 years, you could be an influencer, you can promote a product, and based on your looks or based on who you are, you get brand deals, and that's huge. It's a lot of people can make some solid money on that. It's harder than it looks, but people make that money. All that stuff is getting posted to Instagram, getting posted to Shorts. They're getting posted to Facebook. It's going everywhere. Facebook has a lot of, data as well posted to Instagram, and they say that they're going to, they've come out. They're like, yeah, we're training on your posts. We're training on your videos. Imagine a world where us for JellyPod, we go to the Facebook, the Meta ads platform, and rather than uploading a video that we hired a creator, an influencer to do, we prompt, like, hey, I want a female, 35-year-old female who has brunette hair, this is her background, and create the video. And so now Facebook in their ad platform provides that access to us directly. And then they can create variations. They can just test that you can make her brown haired, blonde hair. They could dynamically change what she looks like based on user demographics. And I think the advertising industry is about to get blown open from this.
It's interesting you said that because TikTok is launching this thing. It's actually what you're saying. It's, I think, in beta right now, but they're going to be able to let you create AI videos like that, 35-year-old brunette, UGC. And so I do think this is the future of content. If you really look on the horizon, 6-12 months, I think the majority of videos will be AI. And they'll be this, scripted. Maybe it's my audio and there's some different video with a different accent, whatever it could be, or totally from scratch. I think most people will be, creating that. Now, then that makes a question. Then a truly authentic video, maybe that becomes more valued, like this. But again, that also depends on the fact that the AI videos will always have uncanny valley, which I don't think is the case. So
Right.
in a world where real videos, AI videos basically are the same, like they look the same, I mean, why wouldn't you just create AI videos, right? It's just, yeah,
Totally.
it's a crazy thing to wrap your mind around. I don't think we understand truly the second, third, fourth order effects of, you know, living in a generative AI first world. It's kind of crazy.
Right. Right. No, and I mean, like my parents. I don't know about yours, but my parents never. They didn't grow up around cartoons or animations, and that was something that was new. Disney and Pixar, and then you had like the whole Nickelodeons, like the 5 cent nickel movies, and animation, and that became something that was in the later half of the 20th century and the early 21st century, where a large number of shows were animated. And you could go to filmmakers from the 50s and like the people back then, like, what is this animation? Like, no, you
Hmm.
have to have actors and you have to be recording and it probably seemed like to them, I'm speaking for them, but it seems very relatable to today where, hey, we can sit down, we can create a cool Viking mid-century sort of or medieval times video that's cool. I mean, like, who cares if it's an animation that you use CGI programs to do or you use some AI tools and you can do it? It's like, if it's entertaining, it's entertaining.
Yeah, and I think we're getting there, like in terms of different things, media, companionship, everything. It's a can of worms, but yeah.
It's a
Uh,
can of worms, and people don't like it too. Like, there's strong opinions, especially on Facebook.
right.
I saw Mr. Beast launch something
Yeah,
this
he
week,
reverted
right?
the AI YouTube thumbnail, which I think it's one of those things that he's just so big that he has to do it, but it's a little
Totally.
stupid. I feel because
Wait, can you give some context?
somebody commented like, oh, I think it was just she said, yeah, you're gonna hire the artist who's gonna go to the AI model and create it using AI. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's just a middleman.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Wait. Give some context to what happened because I don't think.
Yeah, so what happened was, well, actually, you might know more, but apparently, because I didn't know about it, but Mr. Beast has an AI product where you could create YouTube thumbnails using AI, and apparently, there was a huge backlash to that, and he basically backtracked. He came out with this apology video where he said, "I read your comments, your feedback, and we're not pulling the whole thing out, and we're gonna let you commission human artists for
Hmm.
it." So yeah,
Right. Yeah.
which
No,
it's fighting
it's
the
the
tide,
innovator's dilemma. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly. Yeah. And so, think about us, we can offer that. Like a jelly pod, you can come and you can create podcast cover art, if you want, it's all AI
Yeah.
generated, but it's amazing. So,
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just segueing in like video creation, and I know I brought this up. Like, can you just share with me too? Like, you created something, you posted it on X yesterday. I thought it was pretty cool. It was some Vikings and everyone, and you kind of shared like what the models were that you used. Like, can you want to dive into that a little bit? I
yeah,
think it'd
so
be
what
interesting.
happened was, to give some context, was I created this Viking video, which was a montage. It's supposed to be a montage where they're getting ready for war, etc. It wasn't as good as I wanted to, but I time boxed those things to, like, I was like 20 minutes because I had to go somewhere. I was like, all right, I have 30 minutes. What am I gonna do?
Really, you did that in 30 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and mostly it was processing and stuff. Like,
Nice.
it takes a while, but because I have a tool, I have my own little UI tool, and I think I've talked about this before. But what I do is I parallelize a lot of this stuff. So I start with, I usually go to Claude or ChatGPT, and I'm like, give me a script. A script is usually in a form of scenes. It's an array of scenes, like, and so first shot could be a Viking's hammering and on his sword, making it sharp. And second scene could be Viking woman is just painting something on her face, whatever. So you have this series of shots. And what inspired me was this song, actually. And it's funny because the song was, I heard the song from it was a, I think it was Sea Dance. They made a trailer, and I love the song, and I found the song. And the way my mind works is, I don't know how common it is. If I hear, I music gives me inspiration. If a music really hits, I immediately in my head I visualize a story with it. Like, and that's not necessarily the music video. It's my own story, and so it's one of the things I've always wanted to do is I create, because I have all these songs in my head. I'm like, I want to create a music video based on that. So this one, I was like, I envisioned a war montage, and I was like, oh, this I can do because it's a pretty simple cinematic zoom scenes and stuff. So why not? So I took the song. I took a voiceover, which is from the show Vikings. I haven't actually watched Vikings. It's on my list for the longest time, but I was like Vikings, so maybe there's a good Odin war cry long monologue. Just
Right.
downloaded that from YouTube, and so I had these two audio tracks. Then I create the script, which is like a bunch of random scenes. So I have that array. And in my tool, what I do is basically I parallelize. It's basically under the words a script that generates first the images. So you generate the images. It's a series of images. And if you like the images, and I used I think it was Imagen for that. I also, or sorry, context for that. I go back and forth, but I used context, which we'll talk about. I know, but context is what we'll talk about is the editing part, which is where it shines. But you can also use text to image, and you can just prompt and get a image, which is pretty good using Flux Pro context. So create those images. Once I like the images, then I used a Holio 2 standard model, video model, to kick off a parallelized video generation stream where at 6 at a time it just generates 5-second videos on them. And then I merge it together, and that's my video. And then I just, go to CapCut and add the songs and stuff on the
Right.
audio there. So
So
it's a pretty, the actual process is very quick because once you have the script. The hard part is just the getting the scenes and stuff, right? That's where I'm like, it's crazy. I like that's the bottleneck, just getting cool scenes.
gotcha. So let me just try to repeat this back to you for like, I haven't spent as much time as I'd like, making these videos. It just looks super fun. And I think there's a lot of people out there that I think you said you parallelize some stuff and like, yeah, it's like maybe some like stuff behind the hood that you coded up. And I think that's probably intimidating for a lot of people. And so, especially people that aren't as technical. And then
Right.
there's like the Zapiers and there's like the automation softwares that probably can get hooked up. So for the people out there that are listening that want to do what Bilal just did, so let me try to repeat what you did. You had this idea of Vikings. It came from a song. You heard a song, and you were like, "I want to create a video montage of Vikings blowing their horn and having a storming a area." So you took the song, and you went to ChatGPT, and you said, "Hey, create me 10 scenes." And in those 10 scenes, it was like the first scene, a man painting his face. Second scene was something else. And so you asked ChatGPT to create you all the scenes for like 2 minutes long, or is that kind of what it
Right.
was?
Like it's just like, and the scene is basically an image prompt and a video prompt and you want to distinguish between that because the image, you want to describe the actual, which is the first frame, which is like, oh, man, Viking, crazy hair, muscles, weird, intimidating, looking at you. That's the scene. And then the video prompt is what does he do? Maybe he, looks takes out his axe and you know points it at you menacingly. That's the action. So there's the action, which is the video, and the image is the setting the scene. So I generate that off the bat, and you can. I know I talked about parallelizing and stuff, but you can do this, in using Fall or one of the generators where you can generate the images first. Come up with the idea, generate the scenes, then generate the images. Once those images make sense to you, then you can spend time and generate the videos one at a time. You can even put the prompts in and generate 3-4 at a time, and it'll just keep running because it takes 5 minutes. The reason I like the image part first is because videos take a while and they also cost money. They're like, this one Hollywood 2 is like 27 cents, I think, for 5 seconds. Whereas Plus Context Pro is like 3 cents for an image. And it can be even 0.0003 if you use Snell. So that's just a very easy, frictionless ways to experiment and get the scene right. And then once you know the scenes, you can kind of imagine, okay, this scene is going to go. And then it's like filling in the blanks now. Okay, I'm going to have 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, 5 seconds there,
Right,
etc.
right. Totally. So you go from ChatGPT, 10 scenes. Those scenes are first, hey, create the image prompt. So you get all those images prompts to like be like that first frame of that scene. And then you get those video prompts. So the video will take that image prompt and be like, hey, now pan the camera from left to right or put flames or do that. So you go from, text, you have some idea of what you want the whole thing to look like. So you go from that idea to scenes of 10 images, and then those 10 images, you expand those into 10 videos. You take those 10 videos, you put them into a tool like CapCut, and then you just
Right.
stitch them right back to back, and then you're good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's one way to do it. The other way a lot of people do is they'll generate one scene and then they'll take the last frame and then use it as the first frame of the second scene if they want a continuation of uh, the same storyline. That's one way to have a more of a continuous scene. So this is one reason I like the montage idea because it can be a bunch of juxtaposed scenes. It doesn't need to necessarily have one continuous story. And this is like something I feel like is one of those hacks we're going to be doing for the next maybe few months, but hopefully you can just generate like a 2 5 10 30 minute video and you don't have to worry about this. But for now, these are the hacks we have to do.
And that, from what I understand, like that was kind of like the whole flow thing from Google, where it's like you can extend, take that last frame,
Right.
and then extend it and be like, hey, like go from taking this image from the last frame of the previous scene's video, and then
Right.
extend it to the next one, right?
Yeah. And I think Midjourney also lets you do that. Their video model that came out like a couple of weeks ago, it's been causing waves, pretty good apparently. They let you do it up to 4 times. So people have generated up to I think 30 30 to 40
Oh well,
second videos, which
oh, that's
is pretty
cool.
cool.
Do you have a preference? I mean, like, so there's Halio, there is Midjourney's video, there is
Right.
Sora, there's VO3. Like, if you were to rank them based on quality to cost, like where is everything? I mean,
Yeah, so for me, my big filter is API because I'm a nerd and I need the API. So that's why stuff like Midjourney and Sora just immediately, I don't, for me, they're not an option. I mean, if you like, if you don't care about the API, then definitely Midjourney I've heard is the cheapest apparently and really best quality model because you can get basically for the cost of an image you can get a video right now and they might be subsidizing this and you can get multiple generations. So if you're creative, maybe that's a good option, and they're supposed to be the most artistic beautiful models. In terms of the ones I used, I would say Kling is still number one. Kling Master, and every video model usually has a pro version and a light version, so Kling Master is supposed to be pretty good. I rank that up there. Holio Pro is also up there, I think, basically up there, and they're a bit more expensive. I think 74 cents compared to Kling's might be 48, so
okay,
close-ish.
right.
But they're up there. And then you have on the other side you have Seedance Lite, which is 18 cents, and it's basically a great budget option for simple scenes and gives you a good bang for your buck for the light version. And on the extreme budget side, there's LTX, which I've talked about before, but I love LTX because it's 4 cents five for a 5 second video, which is ridiculous. Basically, within 5 to 10 seconds generation, small model. But as you can imagine, you can't really do complex stuff. It's great for simple scenes like zooms and motions. And if you don't want amazing high definition cinematic footage, it's a great way. So I'll often do that. I'll create the images. I do the LTX version first, and then I'll generate the new Pro version. So it's like a good way. You almost want to start cheap, then go up and up and up and spend more money as you get more confident in the scene.
Do you no, it's super interesting. I mean, like just like how we saw, like I think a year ago, there were so many text language models, and there still are. Like people are making language models. They post the weights to Hugging Face, and you have Ella Marina, and they're competing like which is the best. And at some point, it's more of like qualitative, where it's just like what sounds good. And right now, it feels like we're in the same for video and images, where it's like there's all these different models, and I'm trying to understand like the end state 5 years from now,
Hmm.
are we going to see one model that it's like a winner take all market where it's going to be, essentially free to generate, or super cheap? It's going to be good. Like what, like, I struggle to think about like what's going to differentiate these models because you see price go down, you see quality go up. Like what's going to keep Midjourneys to compete with Sora? They're going to have a style that it's always going to be in that style. And then maybe that's not actually good because their TAM is smaller. I don't like. Do
Yeah,
you have any
uh,
thoughts? I don't.
I mean, it's an interesting question. Honestly, it's like so hard to look further out. But I feel like there always will be differentiation. Maybe it's fine tuning. Like we look at images. Images hit this quality threshold where they're good, but then you have artistic images, models like ideogram. If you want text accurately rendered on an image, so I wonder if videos will be the same. This is the if you want a '90s footage type of model. There'll be a fine-tune model for that, high definition model, maybe an anime model, etc. And companies just double down on that. But it's hard for me to imagine one model to rule them all because I feel like that just haven't really seen that happen in any other domain. Because there's always
Right.
a way to differentiate. But who knows?
So yeah, because like I when I think about this, it's like first principles. I mean, what does a video model do? It's like you take some prompt, you adhere to that prompt, and then you create a video and you create an image out of it. And based on that prompt, like how good that prompt is, the video, would the model would adhere to that user's prompt, either, as strictly as the model was trained. Like maybe there's more imagination. Like some models may take your prompt, like your short little prompt, and you might not explicitly say something, but they might just assume that you wanted your video to be better. So they might put, like, if you're an astronaut in space, they might put some stars in the background and they make some assumptions. And then on the other side, that might not be the right thing for, a lot of creatives where it's like, hey, I'm going to be really specific. My prompt is going to be like exactly what I want and follow it to a T. Don't add stars in the background because I did not say stars. And so for me, I'm like, where I could see like the artistic imagination of these models kind of differing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, like, if every model could just be really good, like, I don't see a future where Sora or,
Right.
like, any of these like can't do text well because the model's just going to be good. Like, why
Right.
couldn't
Well,
it
I feel
do
like also,
text?
I think, and this is why it's so crazy. I think the underlying assumption we're making here is there's a ceiling. Like you basically, let's say the models can generate reality, like we see it through our eyes. Okay. But then the question is, why stop there? Is there something like post reality? Like, is there something like better than, 4K, 8K? I mean, I don't know. I feel like we'll just keep pushing the bar. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't think you just stop at some point. You're like, all right, the models are good enough to basically create real life footage. Okay. But I
Right.
feel like people always want more and we just don't know what that is. So it's kind of crazy,
That is, it's totally. It's like the new styles, like when you had like modern art versus like abstract art. It's like abstract art was when people started seeing abstract art back in, what was it, like 19th century, or when
Right.
was, I don't, Picasso, like, who were like, what is this craziness? Like, I've never seen anything like that before. They didn't even know how to like, comprehend something like so
Right. No,
absurd.
that's a great analogy because that abstract art and expressionism, they all started because, before that, painting a profession to capture real life because we didn't have cameras. And then cameras were invented and they're like, oh, we don't need to paint anymore. And the artists, they innovated and they were like, all right, we're going to do post reality, we're going to do expressionism, abstract, art, modern art, etc. And so I wonder if there's a video dimension here where once we can just recreate realities, we do that. And one of the I really like this, the way a lot of I've noticed multiple creators say this, but they think they say that do not think of these video generation models as models that generate video. Think of them as real world simulators. And I really like that way of thinking about it because you're generating video, but really the end state is you're generating worlds, like video game worlds. You can like walk in, talk in, live in, and that's a very interesting thing. So that's where maybe, you know, I want to live in an amazing like high definition 4K world, but maybe sometime I want to live in like a Super Mario world.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah, very
It's
fascinating.
you segued right into like where I was going to go perfectly because I was literally going to bring up like how when I first saw Sora, I remember about like whatever a year ago now or 6 months, I forget. Time flies. But there was a Jeep that was going. It was like a one of those videos that they demoed, and it was a Jeep going through the hillside and kind of just driving along, and it looked like Forza or GTA or a really good version of those video games, but like you could imagine where computing changes, where today the majority of computing is done where you have the calculations happening on the CPU, you have the GPU rendering those pixels on the screen, and they communicate back and forth, but the logic is actually hard coded into the physics engine, and then the physics and the lights and the shaders and everything is rendered to screen through the GPU because it could do that really well. But in a world like that's not how our brains work. That's not like
Mm,
how I think the future of computing could work. And this is probably what Jensen was saying too. I'm spewing what he's probably wanting to happen in the world. But like the Xbox I have in my living room, if you just bump up that GPU and it's able to run a world model that is trained on, let's say, Minecraft. Like if you just trained a model on a lot of Minecraft, and I'm going here because there was an example of this with Oasis, but there's not like the model starts to learn like, hey, my character should move across the ground without like falling through the ground. And there's a tree over there. That tree should probably based if I'm moving closer to the tree gets bigger on the screen.
mm,
And if I press a button, the model understands, hey, like I'm chopping down that tree and like it's much more it's less hard coded, but like, action, render something. It's more of like you press a button on your controller and then the screen changes versus a complex like physics engine and like
right.
business game logic going on and running in the CPU. And so it's kind of wild to me to think about like how video games and that could all like completely change.
I absolutely. There's so many fascinating ideas. One idea I've always wanted to do, I think this would be a hit show. Is like imagine like a trash reality show, but AI generated characters, like Big House, like one of those where they're trapped in a house and they have to do it. But the way it works is it's generated on the fly. So every hour or 10 minutes, there's a poll. Does Brad find out that Ashley's cheating or whatever? Like, and then based on the poll, it happens. So it's like endless, like if like a Bandersnatch type of you can take wherever the plot goes, which I think
Right.
and imagine like it just opens up a whole new way of consuming content. It's as real, as dynamic, as right there, and you're controlling the characters kind of.
Totally.
So yeah. So it's fascinating. Speaking of controlling the characters, I think you mentioned this before, and I've never used Runway, but I'm curious because you mentioned there's a Runway for API now. Have you used Runway before? What do you think? Or do you think they're because they used to be the best? They were way ahead of the game, right? I remember. And then I don't know if they other people have caught up now. They've kind of fallen off, or they're still doing their things, but they're more because they seem to be focused on like studios and artists. People who are really professional.
Right,
Creatives,
right.
right?
No, I mean, I wish I had a better answer, but I haven't used Gen 4 much. I don't think I've used Gen 4 at all. And then I just saw that the API came out. But you're right. I mean, I think they were doing like the in painting where when I have used Runway, it was like I took an image and it's like a waterfall and I drag a brush across the waterfall and like now the water is actually moving in that direction. Everything else kind of stays the same, but like the water looks like it's moving and flowing. It seems like that's what like the direction that they're going to,
Hmm.
where it's more of like you have an underlying great model and they're building tools on top of that model to provide precision and control using like in painting esque sort
Right.
of like
It,
that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, it's funny. It mirrors us Jellypod, right? I mean, we instead of Notebook Elm, which lets you just create an AI podcast, we let you be precise and generate the exact script, change the audio, depending on the sentence, etc. So, because we're also banking on personalization and precision, because that's what our users want. They want control. It sounds like that's what Runway is banking on. The artists want control. They just don't want to. They don't want to press a button and get a scene. They're like, well, I want the scene, but I want to, change the shadow and the shade and all that,
right.
etc. So,
Yeah,
interesting.
totally. I think it's what's funny is like engineers will just hover and gravitate towards what the coolest new shiny thing is because obviously we love building and we just like
Right.
using like the coolest new tech and then you force and fit like this new tech into maybe just what it's not great at. Like going back to Wednesday, I went to the AI Tinkerer's Voice Agent Fair and you see like voice is something super cool. There's Siri that came out over a decade ago. You have Alexa. There was always a promise of voice being this universal interface. And now you have ChatGPT advanced voice mode. And it's actually good. Like you could actually have a conversation. It sounds realistic. It knows you. It can soon like take actions on behalf. So it's actually like Jarvis-esque. But I think that right now you're seeing a lot of companies kind of force voice into their UI when like voice isn't the best medium for a lot of use cases. It could be better than what some platforms use today, but like I don't like I was saying this earlier, but I don't want to go to a airline's website and necessarily chat with the agent website thing when I can just click a button and be like, oh, I'm going from San Francisco airport to JFK. Let me just see all the flights. Like that's such a better interface than talking to the website. Be like, hey, I'm doing this. Like,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
they respond back to me, and then I have to process that. It's like I think that's where there's a lot of leverage for builders and creatives to recognize that, hey, like, I know this is cool, the technology is cool, but it's probably not the right place everywhere. I mean, and so it's like that balance you have to figure out
For sure.
for
Yeah,
sure.
no, absolutely. I think it's funny when we come full circle back to the knobs and dials that we had, you know,
Right.
way back. They're like, yeah, that worked. Why did we break it? So
Totally.
there's an
Totally.
interface for everything, for sure.
Right. For sure.
But I am looking forward to a world where I can use like I know you love coding with the using Aqua Voice like with voice. Like if you can just like change a word, like add a waterfall here, some flowers, some birds, and just make it having it real time. I think is also going to be like this Jevons paradox where it's just going to make it seamless to just explore your imagination because the cost of doing it is low. So it's going to be a Cambrian explosion of creativity.
Totally. That's so exciting.
Um,
It's so exciting. But
I love it. I think it's a. I think I don't know if I've shared this. I do think this is something I want to nerd out on. One of my ideas. I want to make GitHub for content. So because the analogy is like the cost of content basically goes down to the cost of code. And so what if let's say you come up with Game of Thrones, you put it out there, but I hate season 8, so I make a PR. I say I don't like this, happier ending, whatever, and I submit it, and then people can vote on it. Maybe you merge domain. If you don't, you're like, no, I love season. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fork your repo. I'm gonna make my own Game of Thrones, etc., and then you can clone, etc. So I know it's kind of nerdy, but I feel like the workflow of GitHub of having a piece of code, then people reviewing, making a branch of the code, which is a copy of the code, reviewing it, and if you like it, you can merge it back to the main branch, or you can create a fork and create its own thing. You can use that for text content. I'm surprised book authors don't use it, but I think it's such a powerful workflow of versioning and exploring different ideas. And I feel like you can use it with content, and
super
have very
interesting.
interesting things like Star Wars, but Ghibli. I don't know, just like create that, etc.
No, totally. No, that's so, I mean, you just made my brain go in like 10 different directions and just like how sick that would be because like you have like a mainline branch where it's like some content, it's forked, and then you'd have to think about like, okay, what is like the atomic element of content? Is it the prompt? Is it a prompt plus the model? Is like and so like what are those baseline things? Is it the generated object? Maybe. And you take that object as context into like the next fork and you can like make changes and like what are those changes? The diff. The diff is like, hey, I applied this new
Right,
prompt to
right.
this image and it's like that's cool. And then you can also
I
reduce
can
the
see your
cost of
commits,
creation.
git commit add hot girl.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's wild. And you can even imagine this with like characters. If you're building a world where, like, I mean, putting this into Jellypod shoes, like people build their hosts as characters, and something that you've built is like, and we've talked about this, is like memory and backstories and context awareness. And at the end of the day, it's like if I clone my voice and I put in documents that make me me, and I want to send my host, my podcast over to you, or at least allow you to use me as like a character in your content. Like I should be able to, do that. Is there a monetization? Is there a market that could be created there where it's
Yeah,
like you have
it's interesting.
creators and you can pay to use like AI models and oh man, that's well, so
Yeah, it's
interesting.
a crazy world. I mean, it's like goes to the AI economy we've talked about where you almost give like you almost have a chaperone who's like your agent and he goes out and does business on your behalf and stuff. Then again, it's like maybe that's the midwit way of looking at it, and we're 50 years from like, yeah, these guys were trying to, in an age of abundance, they were talking about trying to monetize 5 cents per video. And I'm like, what do you need money for? So it's like that book. I don't know if you ever read the Culture series. It's a very fascinating book series. It's one of the few sci-fi series I think which I like because it's basically set in a post-abundance era, but it's not dystopian. It's basically an era where basically machines we reached AGI, and so society is basically run by AIs. And so the humans kind of just chill and just do whatever, but there's no such thing as money and stuff. Relationships are sort of different, without getting into details and stuff. People can change their gender, but evidently their avatars, etc. And it's a fascinating, thought experiment on what that looks like. And it's not just, I mean, it can be dystopian depending on how you look at it, but it's clearly not, which is what most of sci-fi leans towards. It's like, oh, bad shit happens, but I feel like the Culture series is a cool glimpse into what could happen, with us.
For series. Right. No, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, on that note, I think we wrap up here.
Oh yeah,
Talked about a lot of stuff.
before we wrap up, just quick shout out to context. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but image editing, and we'll do a whole show on it. But context image editing is out there. So they already released a model like a few weeks back where you can give an image, you can edit it, and it was state of the art at least ChatGPT Image One. They just open sourced their model though, and what this allows is to fine tune the model. So Fall has done that recently, where you can take a bunch of images like broccoli hairstyle, and you can like train the model to just edit any image and give you a broccoli hairstyle, and just makes it easier to do that, and you can fine tune that. And so you don't have to be technical about it. They actually have a trainer on their site, and all you have to do is supply 10-20 images of the style you want. Maybe it's cartoon, etc. And the model learns, okay, this is the style you want to edit an image for, and then you
Right.
can create that style. So
Is
very
it
powerful.
is it leaning more towards like realistic edits, or is it leaning towards like anything, or
I've seen mostly realistic, but I think you can do everything. If you go on their site, there's a bunch of things: age progression, baby version, background change, cartoonify. Okay, so there's a cartoonify, professional photo like the LinkedIn one, object removal, Wojak
gotcha.
style.
Right, all right,
So,
totally.
actually, the person who made it, Jonathan, I actually know him. He works at Fall. Pretty cool guy. I've followed him for a while.
Oh,
Check
nice.
him out on Twitter too.
Right, totally. Yeah, I on Wednesday, I mean, Dex from Human Layer, he was the organizer for the AI Tinkerers here,
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah.
and I was like,
Next is
hey,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's sick. But cool. Okay, Flux context brings me back to the days when I was trying to train Alora and do our podcast cover art,
Mm,
and I was just like, I was trying to figure it out, but then I was like, you know what? The prompts get me there. The prompts are cool. I mean, every cover art that we generate is like pretty unique and different, so it got
yeah,
us
yeah.
pretty
To
much
be
there.
honest, I feel like I've never really gone down too much in the train because I'm like the image models are good enough for most edits. The reason you want to use this is because the cost comes down. Like if you want to generate a ton of, it makes sense to just train what the model on 20 images, and then you can basically get the same image slightly better editing at a tenth of the price. So that's probably the use case. It's also a good way to build wrapper products on. Maybe you want to do LinkedIn for like photo to LinkedIn professional photo shoots, train the LoRa, and then you can create a state of the art LinkedIn image generator.
Right,
So
right, and don't pay the $30 for like those three images that those like wrapper companies will do. Do it yourself,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Respect the hustle, but yeah, it's a
Yeah, yeah,
ripoff.
yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. Well, cool. On that note, well, episode 3 of Creative Flux will be here next week. We'll get these out on Fridays, and come listen, join our conversation about semi-technical folks. We'll get a little bit more technical, a little higher level, and talk about everything that happened in the world of generative media and tech. So,
All right,
yep. See ya.
take care, guys. Bye.